about 5 minutes what we have learned until now. Is it okay, everyone?
Yes, probably.
Okay, so what chapter are we in? What canto are we in, Srimad Bhagavatam?
Canto 1, chapter 1.
Canto 1, chapter 1, verse 1. So that's what we did last time, correct? Last week. So we are going to do 1.1.2. Okay, so let's quickly recap what we learned last session. Anyone? Quickly. We have only 5 minutes.
There are 3 verses. First verse glorifies about the absolute truth. And the second verse glorifies about Srimad Bhagavatam. And then third verse glorifies about the third verse is inviting the devotees to listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Good. So Saujanya Mataji said it right. Okay, first one is glorification about the Lord.
About
Absolute truth. And then second one is glorification about
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad Bhagavatam. Third is
Invitation to all the devotees.
Nice.
To
first one is greatness. Second one is greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam. Third one is sweetness of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So anything else quickly? Amol Prabhu. So who is referred here as absolute truth? As per Srila Vyasadeva.
This Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Krishna.
Yes, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya is Anna, Vasudeva is Krishna. So starting itself we established, right? We don't have to get into 10th canto because 10th canto is where Krishna comes. But he established, confirmed. Okay, he's absolute truth. So what are his features? Why do we call him absolute truth? Anybody else wants to try? Why do we call him absolute truth? The first sloka, 1.1.1. Can anyone recite the sloka? Please.
I forgot the sloka. You can read it.
Okay, yeah. Quick.
He's independent.
Good. Is independent. Independent means?
Swarat.
Swarat. Wonderful. Then? Abhigna. What is Abhigna?
He's the one who gives knowledge.
What is Abhigna? Abhigna means fully cognizant. Fully cognizant. Complete knowledge. Okay, then what are the other features of absolute? Swarat. Swarat is said independent. Swatantra. So what are we?
Dependent.
Paratantra.
Tribanga also comes here.
Tribanga. Tribanga is a form. So we are Paratantra, he is Swatantra. He is Abhigna, we are Alpagna. Okay, so just comparison. He is fully cognizant, we are not even cognizant about our body actually, to say. Okay, then other features. Now, Adikavaya is, he imparts this knowledge to Lord Brahma. Okay, first page. Janma Adi Asya. Janma Adi Asya Yato Anvayat Itarastartve Sabhigna Swarat Tene Brahmaradaya Adikavaye Mushyanti Surayah Tejo Vari Mrudam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimayi. Dhimayi is meditation. Okay. Features you said, Abhignaha, Swarat. Then?
The one who created.
Yes, he is the creator, maintainer, annihilator. Okay, so all these 5 he does because he is fully cognizant. How is he fully cognizant? How did he get this full knowledge? How is he fully cognizant?
So he's the one who created this.
Yes, but how? He gets fully knowledge by his Vishnu expansions. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Karunadakshaya Vishnu. He gets directly and indirectly. Directly, Anvayat and Itaras tascha. So directly and indirectly. How indirectly? From his energies, Maya. You get all this knowledge. And we gave the example of a businessman. Okay, then what else he does? He is a creator using those three elements. What are those three elements? Tejo, Vari, Mridam. What is Tejo?
Fire.
Fire. Vari?
Water.
Mridam?
Earth.
Earth. Or sand, whatever. So we need all these three elements to create, and he does that creation. And even big Suraya Mushyantiya, so big sages, they get bewildered because this world, the creation, the whole creation is temporary, but we feel that it is real. Like we see a water on the, if you go to desert, we see like water, right? Water is there, it is not there, but you see that, right? This illusion. So we all get illusion by this creation. We think that creation is permanent, but it is not permanent. Okay, Amrisha, he says Amrisha, it is not lie. It is not lie means it is true, but it is not true. It is temporary. That is what understanding is. Okay, but Samna Swamna Dhena, Sada Nirasta Kohagam, Satyam Param Dhimai is a Param Satyam. Okay, is abode, there is no illusion. Okay, so we have to go to his abode. That is a basic, very simple summary of the first sloka. Now we'll continue with second sloka, 1.1.2. Shyam Prabhu, please. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Jayamudiraye
Tato Jayamudiraye
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
Bhavati Naishtiki
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah.
Nama Sankirtanam Yasya
Nama Sankirtanam Yasya
Nashinam
Sarva Papa Pranashanam
Namo Dukkha Shamana
pramano dukkha shamana.
Tam Harim Pranamamyaham.
Tam harim pranamamyaham.
Nama Sankirtanam Yasya.
Nama
नाम संकीर्तन यस्य
Sarva Papa Pranashanam.
सर्व पाप प्रणाशनम्
Namo Dukkha Shamana.
pramano dukkha shamanam.
Tam Harim Pranamamyaham.
Tam harim
प्रणमाम्यहम्
Sankirtanam Yasya.
nama
नाम
sankirtanam
संकीर्तन
yasya.
Papa Pranashanam.
Sarva papa pranashanam.
Namo Dukkha Shamanaha.
Pramano dukkha shanam.
Tam Harim Pranamamyaham.
त्वं
Tam
हरिं प्रणमाम्यहम्
So we will recite the second shloka, first canto, first chapter, second shloka. Then the 15 minutes in the end, we will take some time to share reflections. In that way, even if it is one line that we try to recount, we try to memorize, or we try to take home. If you can just focus on some one point that you can talk about and then reflect upon that line, or many points, as many points as you want, and that will be beneficial for our meditation. Please repeat. Dharma projita kaitavo atra
dharma projita kaitavotra.
paramo nirmatsaranam satam
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam
Vedyam vastavatru.
tapatrayon moolanam
Tapatrayon moolanam.
Srimad Bhagavate
Srimad Bhagavate
Mahamunikrite
Mahamunikrite
Kimva
Kimba
Aparai Ishwaraha
Parairishwaraha
Satyo Hrudi
Sadhyo Rudi
Avarudhyate
Avaradhyate
Atra
Atra
Krutibihi
Krutibihi
Shushrushubhihi
Shushrushubhihi
Takshana.
Tatshana.
Can somebody read the translation?
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, the Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truths uproot the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Thank you, Vrinda Mataji. So we are seeing the second shloka in the first chapter, first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. So, as we discussed, Srimad Bhagavatam means it tells us about who the Supreme Lord is. So, out of the 18 Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam is the 18th Purana that Srila Vyasadeva compiled. So, exclusively Bhagavatam was compiled for the purpose of glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are although other Puranas that talk about the Supreme Lord. There is Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana. All these Puranas are there. that talk about the Supreme Lord. But Srimad Bhagavatam exclusively glorifies the activities of the Supreme Lord. So the first shloka, it gives us a summary, a gist of who that Supreme Lord is. Janmadi asyaha yataha. From that person, yataha, janma adi asya. Asya is this material universe that we are seeing, that we know, that we have some experience of this. Asya janma adi yataha. So Janma is the creation, Adi, sustenance, and annihilation. So all this is happening from whom? That personality is what Srimad Bhagavatam is dealing about. So the end of first shloka, we see Satyam Param Dhimahi. So it's an instruction, it's a direction. Dhimahi means meditate on that. Who to meditate on? Satyam Param. So that Satyam, that absolute truth, Param, which is the highest. So the highest absolute truth, Dhimahi. So that Supreme Personality, who is the cause of the creation, sustenance, and maintenance of this universe, on that Supreme Personality of Godhead, you meditate. Now, what else is there in this Srimad Bhagavatam? So this is actually an extension of the first verse itself. This information is given in the second verse. So it says, Dharma Rojita Kaitavo Atra Paramaha Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite. So let's stop there. So let's break it down. Srimad Bhagavate means in Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahamuni Krite. The Srimad Bhagavatam is Krite, is compiled by Mahamuni, Vedavyas. So Srimad Bhagavate, in the Srimad Bhagavata, what is there? It says Dharmaha, the very first word. So Srimad Bhagavatam talks about dharma. What kind of dharma it talks about? There are many kinds of dharmas. It says Dharmaha Projita Kaitava Atra Paramaha. It says Parama, highest, the final dharma. Paramaha Dharmaha is what? Bhagavate is given in Bhagavatam. So very important to break down this. Bhagavate Paramaha Dharmaha. Bhagavata has the highest dharma. We'll talk a little more about what dharma is later on. Now, what kind of dharma is it? The qualification of dharma, that dharma is also given. It says Kaitava Projita. Kaitava is cheating religion. Srila Prabhupada many times, depending on the context, explains Kaitava in different words, in different ways. In this first translation, he says it's fruitive reactions or fruitive results. So Kaitava is something that appears as is the truth, but it is not truth. So there are many dharmas that people think is dharma, but it is not dharma. Like, for example, Duryodhana thought it was okay, it is dharma for him to actually take away everything from Pandavas and enjoy, even at the cost of lying, saying that, oh, you didn't complete your 13th year in your exile. Even after all the mathematicians that were there, that convinced him, including Bhishma Dev, convinced him that they had the day then when they discovered Pandavas were hiding in Virata's kingdom. That day was already past the 13th day as per what was promised, what was agreed upon. But Duryodhana didn't want to accept that. He said that is dharma because it was for his advantage. So, Kaitava dharma, Kaitava projita dharma. Projita literally means throwing. Pra ujjita. So take something and throw. So this dharma is filtered of all the kaitava, of all the impurities or the so-called impurities. So this kaitava projita dharma, which is parama, is what is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavate parama dharmaha, which is kaitava projita. So actually in India, you would see, especially when you're traveling during the harvesting season, you will see people standing up with grains holding in their hand in what is it, in the pans, like big pans, and then making the grain fall so that the wind can carry out all the husk, right? So it's taking away all that is not required. So that is being thrown away, and only what is left over is what actually is required. So this Srimad Bhagavatam likewise gives us dharma, which is the highest, parama dharma, projita kaitava, taking away all that appears as dharma, but that is not dharma. So there is dharma that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Vyasadeva. Now, how do we know what is dharma and what is not dharma? Or how do we understand, or who can understand this? That this is dharma or not dharma. So that is given in the next line. It says, Nirmatsaranam satam vedyam. Vedyam means to know. Who can know this dharma, which is pure, which is filtered, which is highest? Who can know that? It says, Nirmatsaranam satam. Nirmatsara. Matsara is envy. Nirmatsara is those who are free from envy. So those people who are free from envy, and who can be free from envy? Satam. Only those people that are pious. So the qualification for knowing what exists in Srimad Bhagavatam, the dharma that exists in Srimad Bhagavatam, only can be known completely as it is by Nirmatsaranam Satam. So Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam. Only those people, Vedyam, can understand Nirmatsaranam Satam, those who are non-envious and those who are pious. Now, what happens if one is able to raise himself to the level of this Nirmatsaranam Satam and understand Srimad Bhagavatam, the dharma that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam? What happens? That is given in the last two lines. It says, Ishvaraha sadya hrudi avarudyate atra. It says, for those people, atra, Ishvaraha, the Supreme Lord, sadhyaha, immediately, hridi avarudyate, he gets situated within the heart. So, Srimad Bhagavatam talks about parama dharma, which is filtered of all the unwanted things, projita kaitava. And then this can be understood by who? Nirmatsaranam satam, vedyam. Understood by Nirmatsaranam satam. Now, what happens if you understand it? It says, sadhyaha, immediately, hridi, in the heart, avarudyate, literally it means gets bound. Ishvaraha, Supreme Lord, actually comes, he's already there in the heart. But then these people, Nirmatsaranam Satam, who use Srimad Bhagavatam or who study Srimad Bhagavatam, they actually can feel the presence of the Lord. We don't feel the presence of the Lord. But then those who are Nirmatsaranam Satam, who take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, they can feel the presence of the heart. Lord in the heart. Hridi avarudyate. So kritibihi shushrushubi tatkshanat. So these people who shruti sushruti sushrushubihi sushrushu. So what is sushrushu means? Shru means to hear. Sushru means one who hears very completely. Those people are all called sushru, sushrushu, those people. So one who hears me just hearing,
Okay, ये भी रख देना.
import of hearing is to actually follow what you hear. Or actually, if you say this person is doing very nice sushrusha, that means this person is acting according to what he has heard. That means hearing, bringing it in your activity. That person is called sushrusha. So tatkshanat, this person becomes sushrusha. And then his heart, he has the presence of, he feels the presence of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And kritibi is those that actually follow this after hearing. They follow this no matter what the situation is. And we see many examples. Actually, if we take examples, it's easy to understand these things. So just to summarize, the important part, the second verse is talking about what is contained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavate, what is contained? Dharmaha, which is Paramaha. So that Parama Dharma is contained, which is Projita Kaitavaha, which is devoid of all the cheating religions or of all the impurities that may exist as dharma. And then this dharma can be understood, Vedyam, by who? It can be understood by those who are Nirmatsarana Sata. And then when they understand through the medium Srimad Bhagavatam, what happens? Hridi avarudyate Ishvaraha. Supreme Lord actually gets bound within that person's heart. So now, how do we know what is dharma? Because this is entirely talking about that Parama Dharma. How do we know what is dharma? Actually, there is this question that comes in Mahabharata, Iksha Prashna. The Iksha is asking Yudhishthira Maharaj, what is dharma? So Yudhishthira Maharaj responds saying, Tarko apratishtaha. Shrutayo vibhinnaha. Tarka means you cannot establish something by logic. If somebody is good at logic, he can establish a donkey to be a horse, horse to be donkey. So it depends on the person who you are arguing with. So apratishtaha, there is no basis, or there is no strong standing for tarka. Shrutayo vibhinnaha. Shruti, what we hear in terms of Vedas, in terms of Puranas, there are many contradictions, seeming contradictions that exist on the surface. Shrutayo vibhinnaha naiko rushirasya vachanam pramanam. Na eko rishi. There are many rishis in terms of, it also means experts. There are many experts. Their vachanam. So if I have to determine what is dharma, if I want to act according to dharma, if I want to finally get to a conclusion that this is dharma, can I use logic? The Yudhishthira Maharaj is saying, no, you cannot. It's apratishtaha. It has no basis. Then can I use Shruti? Can I use scriptures? There are many conflicts, so you cannot use it. Can I use somebody that claims himself as expert, his words? Vachanam Rishi. It says Naiko Rishi Rasya Vachanam Pramanam. Rishi is depending on what their time, place, and circumstances, they can also differ. Then how do I determine what is dharma? Then Yudhishthira Maharaj says, Mahajano yena gata sa pantaha. He says, pantaha, if you follow the path taken by Mahajana, by great personalities, that becomes dharma. So that is what is contained in Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is dharma. So Srimad Bhagavatam talks about the life of many devotees that are nirmatsaranam satam, that are shushtushaha, whose life should give us a guiding path to determine what is dharma, what is not dharma. And it is not still that simple, right? That is why Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, one who engages in studying Srimad Bhagavatam, then what happens? As Chaitya Guru, Supreme Lord from within the heart, can actually give one that indication or guide one on the path. That is the importance. So dharma is not so simple. So to understand dharma, we need many examples, and all those examples are given in Srimad Bhagavatam. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam actually is it's Amala Puranam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls it Amala Puranam because it has examples that can be followed practically by many devotees. So in order to follow what dharma is, which is the crux of this verse, what is given in Bhagavatam is Paramaha Dharma. That is what is given in this verse. So how does one follow? How does one understand that? Some of the examples that we can take from Srimad Bhagavatam and also from others as to if one follows dharma, how Supreme Lord guides that person and how he is protected. So we know many examples like Pandavas, Mother Kunti. She says, Vipada Santushata Shashvat Tatra Tatra Jagatpate Bhavataha Darshanam Yatsyat Apunar Bhavadarshanam. Mother Kunti is saying, Vipada Santata Shashvat. Let there be calamities because I'll remember you. Dharmam to Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. Actually, in the Ajamila story, even Yamadharma Raja's Kinkaras, his servants, become very bewildered. They ask, what is dharma? They go back and ask Yama himself, what is dharma? So Yama says, Dharmam to Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. So only what is established by Supreme Lord is dharma, whether it is given in scriptures or not. So that is why many people, they say Krishna is ranchor, Krishna is thief, Krishna is liar, all these things, right? But then whatever Supreme Lord does, it is dharma, Bhagavat Pranitam. So because Supreme Lord was guiding Pandavas, Mother Kunti says, whenever we are in calamities, we think of you, you come. And then we are safe. So the one other thing that this verse is talking about, the second verse, it says, Tapatraya Unmulanam. So it's talking about how one, if follows dharma, parama dharma as given in Bhagavatam, it does unmulanam. Unmulanam means mula is root, unmulanam is uprooting of what? Tapatraya, of all the miseries. Adi Bhautika, Adi Atmika, Adi Daivika. Now, if you take the example of Pandavas, Pandavas struggled, right? Right from the day when they were born, they were in the forest, they came to put claim on their own father's kingdom. Duryodhana, even Dhritarashtra, they were putting obstacles. Then somehow they decided to divide the kingdom and then send them to a place where nothing was practically a desert. Nothing was there. And then because of Krishna's assistance, Pandavas made a beautiful kingdom there. Yudhishthira Maharaj got the Rajasuya Yagna done, and then comes the gambling match, and then Pandavas lost everything. Even before that, they were sent to Lakshagraha, and then for 12 years they had to spend in forest, 1 year in Agnatavas, right? And then even after that, when they fought the war, they lost so many of their dear and near ones. So then, where is the Tapatraya not being there for Pandavas also? One might ask this, right? So what Acharya says, even though it appears as if Pandavas were going through all these difficult tribulations, they were still in the mode of Tapatraya Unmulana. Why is that and how is that? If you look at Pandavas, what they gained even when they were in the Agnatavasa and in the Vanavasa, they were completely happy. Yudhishthira Maharaj had the association of so many Brahmanas, and there were rishis coming, and then every day Yudhishthira Maharaj was associating with them. There is Markandeya Muni who counts. There is, they had their own priest that was there with them all the time. And then Arjuna, if you see in those 12 years of Vanavasa, he goes to even Indraloka, and then gets so many weapons and gets very opulent that way. If you look at Duryodhana during that 12 years time, even though Duryodhana had the kingdom the opulent kingdom that Pandavas had left behind, Duryodhana was miserable because he was only thinking about what happens after the 13th year. Pandavas will come back, I have to give them their kingdom. So he was always in misery, whereas Pandavas were always thinking about Krishna. Even when Durvasa came with all his 60,000 disciples, Pandavas were a little bit anxiety, but then when they called Krishna, Krishna came saved, right? So it appears on the surface that Pandavas were actually undergoing great tribulations, but if you look at it, they were protected. This is what happens with Srimad Bhagavatam. So the example that is given is, if you want to say touch a live wire, if you have insulated gloves, it doesn't affect you, even though you're touching the wire. So following dharma and taking shelter of Krishna is the same. It doesn't save us from these difficult situations, like the situations appear the same, but then because these devotees are surrendered to Krishna, they have this insulation, just like touching a live wire without the protection of an insulated glove means you're dead. But then because you're a devotee, Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam gives you the ability to withstand all these tribulations. Srila Prabhupada has given this example many times, that a snake with its poison teeth removed, if it bites, there is no effect, right? So Maya becomes like that for those devotees that follow dharma. So that is why it is important that the second verse is followed. If dharma is followed, the parama dharma is followed, then the sure result is tapatraya unmulana is there already. It's already there. It will always be there. Now we also see the examples of those who were not in the association of devotees, how they were also protected because they were following dharma. One big example is Vibhishana. Vibhishana was in the kingdom of Ravana, surrounded by all demons who weren't following dharma, right? But because Vibhishana was totally surrendered, what happened? Even though he was in the association of demoniac people not following dharma, Supreme Lord actually bestowed the highest benediction to him. Actually, Ravana and Kumbhakarna, they did severe austerities and they asked for a boon from Brahma that they have to become immortal, Chiranjeevi. Brahma said, no, you cannot do that. I cannot give you that. But Vibhishana, he didn't even ask that boon. Lord Brahma gave him that boon. Vibhishana is one of the Chiranjeevis. Why? Because even though he was in association of these demoniac people that were not following Dharma, Vibhishana was following Dharma. What happened? Because of him, he got the shelter of Lord Rama. So that is why following Dharma is very important. One other such example that we get is Vidura. Vidura, actually Lord Krishna remembers this when Lord Krishna goes for the mediation. When Lord Krishna goes for the mediation, he doesn't stay at either Duryodhana's place or the place of Bhishma or Drona. He stays with Vidura. Why? Because he tells the time when my devotee, Mother Draupadi, was actually helpless. Nobody protested what was happening to her when she was being disrobed. Vidura was the only one that actually got up. He was screaming at the top of his voice saying, "This is adharma, please protect." He was the only one, even though he wasn't having the strength to protect physically, but because he protested, he did what he could. Krishna said, I'm going to his house, I'm not coming to any of your house. So he knew what dharma was, even though he couldn't stop what had to happen completely, but he protested. So he followed dharma. He knew dharma very well. And then eventually what happened? Krishna's plans. Vidura survived the war, but Bhishma and Drona, who were great devotees, no doubt, right? They did not survive the war. One other way how Krishna shows protection is there for those devotees. There are many such examples. There is one example, I was recently in Mahabharata, Nala and Damayanti. There is a very good story. How? Because both Nala and Damayanti, they were following Dharma, they were protected. Very beautiful story. Just to make the story short, somehow Nala gets into a gambling match with his brother because of Kali's influence. And he loses everything, his kingdom, all the richness and everything. Then he had to leave his kingdom, walk away from his kingdom. Being a pativrata, Damayanti follows the husband. They have, by that time, they would have had 2 children. So Damayanti, very intelligent, very advanced devotee. She sends the 2 children to her father's house, and then she follows husband into the forest. Now, when they're in the forest, they don't get anything to eat. This is Kali's influence. They don't get anything to eat, anything to drink. And then Nala is trying to catch some birds so that he could just at least use those birds to sell and then get some money to sustain, to survive. So he takes off his vastra. He would only have his bottom of the vastra on his bottom half of the body. He uses that to catch the birds, but then the birds take that vastra and fly away. So he's almost now without any clothes. Then what happens? He takes half sari from his wife, Damayanti, and then Damayanti is half clothed and he is off clothed. So then one night when they're sleeping, thirsty, hungry, he's thinking, because of me, Damayanti is also suffering. If I leave Damayanti, then somehow she'll find way to her father's house. She'll be happy. So in the middle of the night, Nala leaves Damayanti in the middle of the forest. So Damayanti wakes up the next morning. She's very sad. She looks around, searches for her husband. She doesn't find anybody. As she's walking, there is a python that actually catches Damayanti and it starts swallowing Damayanti. And then at that time, what happens? Damayanti struggles, but she is powerless against this python. And then at that time, there is a hunterman that is walking by. He hears Damayanti's screams. He comes, he kills the python, saves Damayanti. Now he's asking Damayanti, who are you? Why are you here? And Damayanti, it is described, she is very beautiful. And then she's explaining to this hunterman what happened, but this hunterman is crooked and very wicked. So then he starts looking at Damayanti and his mind changes, and then he wants to physically enjoy Damayanti. So at that time, Damayanti becomes so sad. At the same time, she musters all the courage and she curses. She says, if I am a pativrata, and if I've never thought about any other man other than my husband throughout my life, and actually this is true, because for Damayanti Swayamvara, demigods come, Indra, Varuna, Agni, they come, and Damayanti says, no, I don't want any of you, I want Nala only. And that is how much she's devoted to her husband. So she says, if it is true that I'm a true pativrata, let this man burn to ashes. And the man burns to ashes. So this is the power of dharma, because she was so dharmic, she was following dharma to the core. She was protected through her dharma. And actually, they find eventually Nala and Damayanti, they again get back together. And Damayanti is very angry at husband, and because she thinks he left her. Why would you leave me? That too in the middle of the forest with no protection. Husband means husband has to protect. And Nala also says this. He says, I know because you're a pativrata is protected always because of her power of being a pativrata. That is why I left, because I knew that you're safe. So Nala also understood this principle. As long as you followed dharma, nothing would actually affect you. And the same thing happens with Nala also, because he's so dharmic. After he leaves Damayanti, he's walking out of the forest, and then he sees a huge forest fire. And then he hears screams of a snake that says, I'm getting stuck here. I cannot escape the forest fire. Can somebody save me? Nala, being a king, being compassionate, immediately ignores the fire, his own safety, runs in, saves that Naga. And that snake is Karkotaka snake. So then, because he saved, because of his dharma prajna, he followed dharma of being a king and wants to protect others. Then Karkotaka says, I'll come to your rescue. And Karkotaka, it's a long story, bites Nala, and Nala becomes Virupa. Like, he loses his beautiful form. And then he becomes so unrecognizable, and he becomes very not good looking. What's the word? Whatever. Ugly. Ugly. Thank you. He becomes ugly, unrecognizable. And again, there is a reason for all this. But the important part is both of them were following dharma, and because they were following dharma, Sadhya, Hridayi, Hridi, Avaridyate. So Lord becomes situated in the heart. And when Lord becomes situated, you're protected. That is what is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll stop right there. So we'll see reflections.
I have some
Questions? Okay.
If I read that entire Bhagavatam, I started with I'm not providing.
No, they can't hear.
So the entire Bhagavatam, when I start reading, I understood that initially it is starting from Vedas, Atharvana Vedas, right? That's the first one. It's split into, Vasudev split into 4 more Vedas. So even if he found that it is very difficult to read, he split into Upanishad, 108 Upanishad. The disadvantage of Upanishad is something master could teach the student, otherwise it is very difficult to read. From there, it is all the Purana skills, right? But when we talk about that, we are totally ignoring all the Vedas and Upanishad. Why is it? Because it is coming from Purana, Upanishad and Vedas, right? Bhagavatam is a part of this. It's a readable form of other version. That is what all the Puranas. But whenever I'm listening to this, they're talking about even the second beginning of that, what is that material object is something it is the purport start with it, right? So why is that? It is because it is that subset of Vedas and Puranas. Sorry, subset of Vedas and Upanishads. That is called, that's what my understanding. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. So, but why we are always ignoring Vedas is only that best is sound, we should not attract with the sound. Also Puranas, if you talk about Upanishad, it is not talking about bhakti. But in understanding, it is expansion of Upanishad. That's what my understanding. Can you give some light on it?
Yeah. So again, there is a story. In Kali Yuga, the beginning of Kali Yuga, this is a story. Why the Vedas and the knowledge of Vedas, they were lost. There's a story about Gautama Muni. He curses Brahmanas. The story is very short in a nutshell. Gautama Muni, there is a big drought. So Gautama Muni's ashrama is the only one that has the opulence of everything. So all the different Brahmanas from different parts of the world, they come take shelter of Gautama Muni. And then Gautama Muni not only gives them shelter, feeds them, takes care of them physically, he also gives them vidya, all the knowledge. Now what happens, this lasts for many years, and after that, when the rains come, all these Brahmanas, they want to go back to their original places. Now then what happens, Gautama Muni, being so attached to these people, he says, why do you want to live? Everything you need, I'm providing you, so stay here. But these Brahmanas, they were attached to their original places, they want to go back. But then Gautama Muni doesn't insists that they stay, but these people, they want to go. So finally, there is a backstory also. Lord Ganesha comes and gives an idea to these Brahmanas, saying, I'll create a situation where a cow is grazing in his ashram, and then Gautama Muni comes to drive away the cow. And then Gautama Muni comes and then he sees the cow is grazing and he wants to shoo away the cow. He touches the cow and the cow dies. So then all the Brahmanas say, oh, now you've done Gohatya, so we cannot stay with you. So they want to leave, they left. Now, actually, Gautama Muni is a very exalted personality. So he thinks, meditation, he closes his eyes and he is able to see what happened. He is able to see the truth, that this is what happened. It's all designed by these Brahmanas. And he gets very upset and he gets very angry. So he says, let all the knowledge that I've given you become void. So they lost all the knowledge. So that is how it is said, one of the stories, that all the knowledge was lost at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, right? Now, at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, almost like the Dwapara Yuga mid. Now, at that same time, Srila Vyasadeva appeared and he wanted to actually give this lost knowledge back. So that is where there was one Veda, and then he knew for the coming age it is difficult for them to actually absorb all this. So he divided it into 4 Vedas. And then Upanishads are part of the Vedas. Now, in Kali Yuga, Prayena Alpa Sabhyaha Alpayusha, you remember that was Kalau Asmin Yuge Janaha, Mandaha Sumanda Matayaha, Manda Bhagyahi Upadruha. So Mandaha, we cannot understand. So that is why what happened to understand those the difficult subject matters that were there in Vedas and Upanishads, to make them understandable in a simpler form, Puranas were created. So that,
I agree that.
right.
That's what I also know that.
Right.
That when we present, mostly we present, that presentation is totally different. Say that we don't need to read Puranas and other things. Why can't we talk about this way? and present in a proper way. That's
You
what
mean you cannot read Vedas and other things?
Yeah.
Okay,
Most of the lecture on lesson that Vedas are not here in Kali Yuga.
okay.
We can directly Vedas and other Upanishad not to read it because this is the best. It actually is a part of that, right? All the Puranas is part of the Veda.
Yeah, well, so here is my understanding. For Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Mahaprabhu stressed on Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. That is Mahaprabhu's contribution.
Yes.
But I've never seen any commentaries. Actually, I've seen to the contrary, that Vedas and Upanishads should not be either studied or it should not be read. I've not seen those things in either Prabhupada's purports or,
I agree that.
yeah.
Yes. True.
So giving stress to Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, some people may have construed it as you don't have to read Upanishads and Vedas.
No, in Bhagavad Gita,
Mhm.
I think third chapter
Mhm.
is mentioning that Vedas are just wordings. Like that, one of the texts it comes over. Prabhupada told it.
Yamimam pushpitam vacha pravadanti avipashchita vedavadarata bharta. Yeah, so they think it is flowery language of Veda. Yeah, it's referring to the Karma Kanda portion where they are talking about you do this yajna and you'll get this benefit. So Krishna is saying don't fall for that because it only is for the bodily platform, not on the spiritual platform. Yeah, so that is the summary of my understanding. If one is, and Prabhupada says in many purports, and Prabhupada quotes from Upanishads.
Yes.
The conclusion from my understanding is that is just what people have started off. Like some people have heard saying that, but that is not Prabhupada's directions.
Thank you.
Sorry, Guru, what is this? We are not able to read Upanishad and Purana, is it something?
Prabhu's question is, there are a section of people that I've also heard in Gaudiya Vaishnavism where they say Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is enough. What is the need of either studying or listening to Vedas and Upanishads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Probably because Bhagavad Gita itself gives you what you need to do for your whole life.
Yeah,
And Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad tells everything, whatever is in the science also, like even what they show in medical, even every stage of the childbirth, everything is given in Bhagavad completely, everything. So this too is enough for a human person, for a man in Kali Yuga, because they don't have much time for many things. So probably that is sufficient. Not that I don't think Prabhupada would have degraded any of this thing. Vedas has come out from God's mouth, but everything is explained neatly in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad. That suffice. You don't need to go looking elsewhere. I mean, that's my understanding.
No, that is very true. Can I add something?
Yeah, Bhakti Sangha.
So today we discussed 1.1.2, right? So in this second shloka itself, answer is there for your question. Third line. What is the third line in the second shloka? Read that out. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimba Parairishwaraha. What does that mean? Why do you need other scriptures? He says that.
No, I'm not questioning about any scripture. The presentation, some of the
Anything, even Vedas, everything you throw. That is what he says. Everything keep aside. Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, even.
I'm not saying Bhagavatam not you. I 100% agree with that. My question is, Bhagavatam also is a part of Vedas.
Yes.
That is my question.
Yes.
But many lectures I said that Upanishad, they are kind of criticizing, no need to read Vedas. That's the part I'm arguing.
Okay.
My question.
I don't think so. I didn't hear anything.
I heard a lot, many
Yeah.
people, they no need to do this.
The-
No need to listen.
It must be somebody who haven't understood what Bhagavad Gita is and who is, they haven't understood what Bhagavad is, because Prabhupada would not have told those things are not good or thing. He, in a simple language, he told, you can understand everything You don't have to read all that, everything is given right here.
I understand that because they are Madhya Buddhi, we don't have intelligence to understand Upanishad, because Upanishad needs to Guru. From Guru, each and everything have to argue and understand. Word by word we have to understand, we are not that much intelligent. That's what Puranas has been created for the people in Kali Yuga. That part I am very clear. But the presentation sometimes I am having some hiccups on it. So some people they are presenting in a different way, which I need a clarification whether my understanding is wrong or their understanding is wrong.
Right, it's very clear. Vyasadeva said here very clear. We don't need any other scripture. Even in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna he himself says, what is that? Vedasya sarvait ahame vivedya. So if you know all the Vedas and you don't know me, then throw away all those Vedas. There's no use, right? So, but if you want to know Krishna, Bhagavad Gita is enough. Okay. What is that first verse in Gita Mahatmya? Not the first verse, but Dugdha Gopala Gitamritam. You know, so he says, so, yeah, so Krishna directly says there, Vyasadeva says here, Kimva Paradishvara, I don't need any other scripture. Then for us, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad.
And also in Kali Yuga, people don't have time. That's what they said. People will not have time and think. That's why in Bhagavad Gita he tells, no, just Nama Japa is enough. And even offering people to sit and cook and this and that, even if you offer a leaf with bhakti, I will accept here, is told. So, because he knows how people will be in Kali Yuga. You are seeing day to day how with ages it's going worse.
I think it all depends on if, okay, it's not an exclusion. One way of understanding that is you have Srimad Bhagavatam, you have Bhagavad Gita. That means you don't need anything. That is not the understanding. It means if you can only spend time to do this and understand, it's fine. But if you have the capacity, if you want to, there's everything else that is available. But that doesn't mean that you will get something that is not here. Obviously, the taste is different. And variegatedness is one of Supreme Lord's qualities that He has created. So the bigger your pot is, you can fill up more. And that more can also include Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all the scriptures, if you have a bigger pot. If you don't, what you have in Bhagavatam, what you have in Bhagavad Gita also is the summary, the gist, the essence. The essence is already there. And if you're happy with the essence, fine. But then if you think that essence is there, we don't want the root, that is wrong.
Yes.
That understanding is totally wrong. So, kim va aparai, it doesn't mean that the essence, the root of the essence has to be rejected. That is a wrong understanding. If you can, you will find many more revelations in any of the Vedic scriptures. That is the root. And then this has come from there, the essence. You enjoy this, you enjoy it. But then rejecting the root based on, oh, we have Srimad Bhagavatam, everything. It doesn't. Even Mahabharata says that. Actually, Mahabharata says, what is not there anywhere is there in Mahabharata. What is not there in even Vedas is there in Mahabharata. So then if we go by that, then even Srimad Bhagavatam has to be rejected. Mahabharata itself says, what is not there anywhere else can be found in Mahabharata. But what is there in Mahabharata can be found in everywhere, found other places. So.
Like you want the mango fruit, but you don't want the trees. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Root and this.
Yeah, mango fruit has everything that you need. If you're happy with it, it's fine. But then there are other parts of the mango tree that somebody might find interesting, which is also essential. So.
And I just noticed in the purport, it says for the second verse, Srimad Bhagavatam gives information. Srimad Bhagavatam gives information about the absolute truth in his personal feature. It is higher than impersonalist literatures and higher than the Jnana Kanda division of the Vedas. It is even higher than the Karma Kanda division and even higher than the Upasana Kanda division, because it recommends the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Lord Krishna. So the essence, I think that's what in the purport also it's emphasized.
Yeah. Srila Madhvacharya gives this very famous verse. He says about Bhagavatam, he says, Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam. And Brahma Sutra was compiled by Vedavyasa ji for understanding the Vedas. These are like very short aphorisms. So to understand what is there given in Vedas, Brahma Sutras is important. Now, to understand what Brahma Sutras mean, Bhagavatam helps. So these are complementary. These are not, it doesn't mean that if you have one, then others you don't need. He says, Bharatartha Vinirnayaha. So even Mahabharata, if you want to conclude the meanings, then Bhagavatam helps. Gayatri Bhashya Rupa also. It is a commentary, natural commentary on Gayatri. It says, Vedartha Paribhramitaha. It also contains all the meanings of what is given in Vedas. Any other comments before we move on? Reflections.
I think so. I forget the things, the Bhagavad Gita. No, I don't need my this one. Sorry. I remember something is like, the Prabhupada said in the Bhagavad Gita, Gita has everything. But I forget this next sentence. I mean, like the Prabhupada said, like this is the summarizing. The Gita has everything on the, like Vedas, Upanishad, Purana, all contains it, have included in the Gita. But all other scripture, like might be something I forget this sentence, doesn't have look like in the Gita. This is something I hear, but I forget this, where is it? It's Prabhupada said.
Yeah, essence of everything is given in Gita, which is true, right? But then that doesn't mean, I think that the discussion was, does it mean that other things are dispensable? Or should we ignore other things?
No.
Or other things are not important? So, yeah.
Okay, so any other questions online? Devotees, do you have any questions? No, not online. Okay.
Okay, so let's go around and then just share one reflection. One thing that you heard that you want to just share, even if it is just repeating what you heard. One simple sentence is also good.
Yeah, so this today's discussion, I think, so like, the very best thing is what is the dharma? This means the sloka is Nirmat Saranam Satam. This is the whole Bhagavatam essence. This is my understanding and whatever you say.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. I think it works both ways. Only Nirmat Saranam and Satam Vedyam can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. At the same time, Srimad Bhagavatam can make one Nirmat Saranam Satam. So it works both ways. Thank you. I should pray.
And when you mentioned about the dharma, like how to know whether it's a good dharma in what direction you should see, whether it's good dharma, how do you know? You said that you have to follow the paths of the Mahajans, and then that you will get to know if you follow read the Bhagavatam. And that's one thing, and also you said that Krishna goes to Vidura's house instead of going to nearest, other people's houses, because he at least called about the dharma in time of need, even though he is not able to face the Duryodhana's capacity and all. So in spite of having all the problems and beyond our capacity, if we follow dharma, Krishna will come to our house.
Thank you, Shubhru. Rajna.
I learned, Prabhuji, that it's really easy to change your whole life just by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and for
like people who come from different backgrounds and like different and societies and backgrounds. It's just by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they can change their whole life positively.
Expression. Nitya.
So I was here on and off, but just from the question that Prabhuji asked, I was relating it back to my life. And just as a college student, we're so busy, and sometimes we get overwhelmed. Oh, there's so many things we have to read and all. But just knowing that, the essence is in the Bhagavatam, and even if we read that, like that is enough. And just coming back to the idea of like where the essence is, I think that stuck with me, just with the place in life that I'm doing.
So the thing that stuck to me is like, we cannot escape any miseries, and the example that you gave, Pandavas also had miseries, and Kaurava, mainly Duryodhana and everyone else also had miseries. But what is more important is Pandavas were protected because they thought of Krishna and they took shelter of Krishna. So in our life, there's no one single day or any moment we feel like, oh, our life is good. No, there's always miseries, but bottom line, we have to remember Krishna and follow Dharma, then we will be protected. So that's how we have to tell ourselves whenever we get into any difficulties or miseries. So that's what's stuck to me.
Thank you for having this lecture. My reflection is, here in the purport and even in the translation it mentioned, Srimad Bhagavatam is a transcendental Purana and it can only be understood by pure devotee. So how should we see from our angle? Because I am not a pure devotee. So whether I should read Bhagavatam or not read Bhagavatam.
Your first qualification that you are not a devotee.
Yeah.
You have that qualification.
So the means and the goal is the same. So Bhagavatam purifies and Bhagavatam is for the purified. So Bhagavatam itself has different, it's depending on, say for example, if you're like 2 feet, what you can see, how far above you can see only what you can see from that height. So Bhagavatam being Amala Purana, you can start from the base to all the way to the liberated stage. And then for everyone, Bhagavatam, the way Bhagavatam reveals itself is different. And no matter what, everyone actually gets purified and is enjoying Srimad Bhagavatam. So at the lower stage, one actually doesn't have the attraction for Srimad Bhagavatam, but if one persists, the more you get attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam, that means you are getting more purified. So that is one sign of understanding if the effect of Kali Yuga is diminishing in ourselves. So if one has attraction to Srimad Bhagavatam, to Krishna's activities, that means Kali's influence is reducing and our attachment and attraction to Krishna is increasing. So in the beginning, we may not have that attraction, but as we develop that purity through chanting and through Srimad Bhagavatam, which is, Krishna himself, then one will be able to actually become pure and then get more attached and attracted. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, I asked some questions on that. Second thing, what it is new to me is you said some of the story about the cow and the brahmanas. It is new to me. That was the reason, especially Kali Yuga, who born in Kali Yuga, they don't have memory. It means very less memory people. It's new to me, and really am long way I have questioned that why that Kali Yuga people is less intelligent. But now I got the answer. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's one of the stories. And also the effect of Kali, as such, the design of Kali Yuga is to the Mandahas Mandamataya Mandabhagya. Thank you.
I understood that whatever Krishna does is dharma, even if he like lies or steals, he's still doing dharma because he cannot do adharma.
माता जी हिंदी में बोल सकते हैं.
माता जी हिंदी में बोलिए.
Yeah.
बोलिए.
प्रभु जी, yeah.
What I can learn from this, that no matter what you do, you always read or hear Bhagavatam and pray to Krishna that you stay away from the Maya. So in order to get away from the Maya Devi, only source is the Bhagavatam, Mahamantra, and prayer to Krishna.
Thank you.
हिंदी में बोलिए.
When you talk, just few words.
सबको नहीं आता माता जी. आप एक दो सेंटेंस बोल दीजिए.
Don't be shy, Mataji. If you talk Bhagavatam, then we will get back to it.
Okay, next class. आपको ready रहना पड़ेगा. Next class.
Today the example of removing the husk from the grain by the wind, that caught my attention. I was thinking of that. So if you read Bhagavatam regularly, that is like the wind, which will remove the anarthas, what we have, and we can understand Dharma, which is basically understand Krishna and what we should do or how we should be. This is the point what I am taking.
Yes, you have to talk, sir. I'm waiting for you.
One sentence. What did you?
Anything.
Quick. Okay.
Next class.
I came in last and whatever little I could speak, I spoke. And, whatever he said about the Brahmin story, even I hadn't heard of. So that was good to know.
So anyone wants to add anything else?
Good question. So what
Keep
you
coming on
said,
that.
right? Like you said, whatever Krishna does is dharma. But then if anyone can argue, oh, Krishna is also stealing, so even I will steal, or thief, then that's wrong interpretation, right? What Krishna does, yes, it's dharma for him because he knows why he's doing, but we cannot follow that. So what is the realization here?
Yeah. So Krishna is Asama Urdhva. So one of the names of Krishna is Asama. There is nobody equal to Krishna. Urdhva. There is nobody greater than Krishna. So if we want to do what we want, what Krishna does, then we have to be either equal to Krishna or greater than Krishna, right? So that is actually what Mayavadi philosophy is in one sense, that we'll become Krishna when we become self-realized or when we become liberated. That is totally wrong. So that is why Krishna is Vibhu. We are Anu. Vibhu means he is huge. We are Anu. We are very small. So the whole philosophy of Vaita and what Gaudiya's Gaudiya philosophy is, we are Jive Swarup Hai Krishna Nityadas. We are eternally servant of Krishna. And then the whole the whole essence of dharma is Krishna is the only enjoyer. So if we try to enjoy independent of Krishna, which is what our problem was and why we came to this material world, because Krishna, being the compassionate father, is designed it in such a way that if we serve to enjoy him, we also become happy. the example that is given in the scriptures is if you feed the root, then all the different parts of the tree gets nourished. Feed the stomach, all the different parts of the body gets nourished. So independently, if we want to become as Krishna or enjoy like Krishna, then that is not the way it is designed. And that is why we were sent to the material universe, because in spiritual world, Krishna is the only enjoyer, and we enjoy by serving Krishna. But the moment we think, why Krishna is enjoying, why I cannot enjoy like Krishna, Krishna says, you cannot do that here. You want that experience? Go to material world. Just like a small baby which has no knowledge, doesn't listen to the parents, doesn't know what is good, what is not good. Then Krishna says, you want that experience? I'll create the material universe, you go there, and then you can enjoy, right? And that is where we are enjoying, where we are thinking. Prabhupada uses this lording over the material energy. We think we are the enjoyer, we are Krishna. And as long as we are thinking like that, we are on the bodily platform. And if we are on the bodily platform, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, we have to keep taking different births. So the moment we come to realize Krishna is supreme, I have to serve him, that is when actually everything gets in line.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So I would like to add only one point for that, Mataji. So if Krishna steals and you can steal, Krishna lifted Govardhan. Can you lift?
Yeah.
So if that analogy works, then you have to analyze in the same pattern for all the activities what Krishna did, right? So we cannot just repeat what he did. Not only Govardhan, he did so many other things. He killed Putana. He drank the poison, but he didn't die. Can we drink poison and not die? We can't. So we can't match Krishna. So many activities are there which we cannot just.
I was just trying to see how we can answer when someone says.
Yeah, tell them to lift Govardhan.
Good question.
Okay.
That was really a good question.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
know, it'll enlighten especially the
Yes.
kids. Yeah.
We should have to just follow the instruction, not in following things.
Thank you very much, Shyam Prabhu, for a wonderful session. Good knowledge sharing. We'll end the session. Online devotees, any questions before we end the session?
No question, Prabhuji. Nice session. Reflection is, if you follow the Dharma, then God will protect you. And there was a nice story about Nal and Damayanti and Vidur, who was trying to protect Draupadi in the incident, and Lord Krishna protected him.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
My realization is, if you have to follow dharma, in case you are unable to do it, you have to surrender to Krishna, like Vibhishan did.
Very nice. Thank you. Narasimha Lila, right?
Narasimha Praladeshwar.
Narasimha Praladeshwar Prabhu ki jai. Sorry. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, online devotees, and the session here.
Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Adi ki
Jai.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnarebhyo Namo Namo. Anta Pati Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Online devotees, sorry, you are going to miss Prasadam. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you.